All right, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kirby for some Fire Emblem 6.
Hi. Yep. Well, this is Fire Emblem 6, Binding Blade. This game was never actually released in the West, but it's that game that like everyone knows because Roy was in Melee.
Roy's our boy.
Roy's our boy,
Wait,
yes.
Roy wasn't in Melee first?
He was in Melee first to advertise this game, but then the developers thought that this game was too difficult for the Western release, so they didn't localize it, and then they made the next game, which is in the West known as just Fire Emblem, which is the game that features Lynn, Hector, Elliowood. This game chronologically happens several years after that game, but it is the first Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, so this is Binding Blade. If you hear us talking about Blazing Sword, that is the Fire Emblem 7, the game after this, which takes place before this in the same area.
So one thing to note, since this game has never had a Western release, there's no official English version of this, so I'm going to be running this on the English fan translation provided by Seren's Forest. It doesn't really change anything gameplay-wise, and the route works exactly the same way, but for accessibility's sake, I was allowed to use the fan translation, so that's what I'm running this on.
And we should probably introduce ourselves first before we start.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Alec-K47.
I'm S-Grunt.
And I'm Legrand, previous runner and router of this game.
Yep, and I am a runner and router of this game too.
And I have nothing to do for this game. I'm just here for comic relief and moral support.
I just enjoy this series.
All right, are you ready on the countdown? All right, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, run killer coming up. There's a run killer right here.
So don't get in a bind here, Kirby.
It's alright.
Good job, me. I passed. I didn't get killed a run.
So this is a GBA Fire Emblem, and if you've already seen Fire Emblem 7 or Fire Emblem 8, you already know what's coming up. This is going to be heavily RNG manipulated. So we're going to manipulate every hit, every crit, every level up throughout the whole run. We're going to do it for everything, and if we don't do it for like a few random reasons, then everything is going to crumble and the route is not going to work out anymore.
Yeah, so there are various stats, if Alec can explain them.
Sure. Health is exactly what you think it is. Strength is how hard you hit. Skill is how good you are at hitting things. Speed is basically your speed in combat. You can get 1 or 2 attacks.
Speed is what we're all here for.
Yeah. And luck is a little bit of effect on a lot of things. It's lower numerically. Defense is physical defense and resistance to magical defense. You can also have magic, which is strength for magical stuff. So that's basically it. There's also one more stat, which is of pretty decent importance. It's called Constitution, and that affects how much you are weighed, if at all, you are weighed down by weapons. And in addition, there's a rescue mechanic, which you're going to see used and abused extensively in this run, and that is based off the Constitution stat. So if anyone wants to know about the most important stat in the game, Constitution, hi Mecha.
Hi, Mecha. Constitution is more important.
I thought movement was more important, guys, please.
We're just joking.
Yeah, I know. So, Cavaliers have 8 movements. Well, Marcus here have 8 movements. Alan and Lance right now has 7. And Roy only has 5, and he needs to seize every map. So it's going to be very important to rescue him with Cavaliers all the way up to the throne, pretty much every maps.
Yeah, and there's a, even though they may not have a base Constitution stat high enough to rescue a lot of units, mounted units have a bonus to that basically. So they, in addition to having a lot of extra movement, can carry units otherwise that they might not be able to. You saw him there use another Cavalier to take and then drop an already rescued unit onto that fort, which gives a little bit of bonus evasion, which is nice for RNG manipulation purposes. That is also going to be a mechanic you'll see a lot, where one unit is picked up by one, transferred to another, and then dropped.
So in order to manipulate RNG, how are we going to do that exactly? Basically, every time we do some inputs, it's always going to give us the same result at the end. So we just really did rinse and repeat chapters until we found a good outcome, and just kept that noted down and just always go with it. Like for example, every time you see weird cursor movement, it basically burns random numbers, because a random number is an actual list that's always going to be the same. And if you are going to move the cursor in a way that makes the game have to redraw the arrow movement, the game is going to use the RNG list that's also used for hit rate, critical, and level ups in order to find out how the pass is going to look like, and that's going to be our main tool to manipulate RNG throughout this run.
So we saw him pick up an armor slayer right there. That is one type of weapon that has its might, its base damage stat increased against particular types of enemies. And one thing that's particularly important about it in this game is the fact that it's actually fairly accurate, as opposed to the hammer, which is the axe equivalent. And in this game in particular, the thrown bonuses, basically
Also,
the tile you have to seize.
Why you gotta be so rude? Oof.
Oof.
So right, that was two 10% crits, so that's 1% chance for this to happen. But wait for it, so that's
Just
pretty
watch
much
this enemy face.
Yeah. Surge crit, so that's
Here's another crit.
0.1%. Not counting the nearly perfect level up, by the way. This is the reason why this game is super fun to speedrun, by the way. Because
This
that many
enemy
people-
face is a miracle. Like we don't know how he found this seed. It was a complete miracle. It's not even over yet.
Anyway,
Straight critical.
Fourth critical.
That 0.01% chance to happen just with a critical, not even the level up and the survivability.
Conveniently
upright.
enough, we leave this soldier on low HP to feed the kill to Shauna. So Shauna just joined our group. She's the guy. She's the Pegasus Knight right here, and she can fly and has high movements.
yeah. Anyway, I'll talk about units in a sec, but back to what I was saying about thrown bonuses. They get bonuses to defense, resistance, and 30% extra evasion, which makes every boss in this game de facto a dodge tank, and that is annoying. So the fact that the Armor Slayer has really good hit rate, as does Roy's Rapier, is very useful for a pretty significant number of bosses. And back to units, you see him mostly using for combat Roy because A, he's our boy,
Our boy.
and B, he kind of has to be able to go into dangerous areas and not die because he needs to seize the throne in each chapter. Future Fire Emblem games would have varied win conditions, but this one it's just seize the throne with your lord. And so having him be a useful combatant is very important, as well as the fact that he will eventually get really nice weapons, but we'll get to that later. There's also Seth right now. He's the paladin.
Seth.
I said Seth. Okay, Marcus.
Old Seth.
That's wishful thinking.
I wish he was Seth. That would be really nice, because Seth is like 10 times better than Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus also appears in Fire Emblem 7. He's better in that game, but he's still useful in this one, especially early on, because he just comes with such high base stats. However, in this game, his growths are awful, and as a result, what few decent level ups he gets are actually something that takes a bit of manipulation as well. And then you have Shauna there.
She's really weak right now, but which is why we want to train her up so she starts snowballing through the rest of the run.
Yeah. Basically, she doesn't have a very good strength growth, but we can deal with that. Her skill, her speed, and her luck growths are all really good. And the fact that she is riding that Pegasus there means she has great mobility, and that is arguably her biggest selling point there.
The fact that she also starts with 13 speed or 12 speed, I can't remember
I think
exactly.
it's 13. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, I think it's 13 as well, but that sounds wrong. Anyway, like 13 speed is a lot, and that basically allow her to double everyone, even with a really weak constitution at 4. That is going to make her be weighed down by weapons. So weapons have a weight, and if you can't wield it properly because you have a too low constitution, you're going to lose speed because of that. But
Yeah.
that can be mitigated with that insane speed, so she is still going to be able to double a lot of enemies. The problem is her strength, but we are going to strength bless her.
Her
with
strength
level
growth is
up.
30%, which is mediocre, on top of having a base strength of 4, which she got 2 strength points in a row so far.
Yeah, so about that, every time you get a level, you have a chance to get a new stat depending on your growth. That's what we've been mentioning this whole time. So you have a chance to get +1 in each stat, depending on the RNG again. So you can just manipulate RNG to get good level ups, just like this one.
Strength, speed, luck. This seed was honestly a miracle because Marcus's growths are complete trash, and on top of that, he has to hit every enemy and defeat every enemy he's attacking with a hand axe, which are notoriously inaccurate in this game.
Yeah.
So this is a miracle.
One thing that kind of helps and kind of hurts, and that started in the GBA Fire Emblems, is something called True Hit, where they take two RNG values and basically average them when they're doing a chance to hit. So 50% is actually 50% if that's the average. If the average is 75, then it's actually much higher than that.
So the displayed hit rate is 75,
Yeah,
the actual hit
yeah.
rate's higher than what's displayed, and vice versa for if it's below 50. So most Fire Emblem games lie to you. They generally benefit the player more than the AI because usually your units are going to be better than the AI units.
Yeah.
But like basically a 60% hit rate is going to be way more shaky than what you would expect. So it can be really annoying to deal with. So right, this map was already featured in Fire Emblem 7.
This map looks a little familiar if you play Blazing Sword.
It's just still much harder because enemies are much stronger in this game. You don't have that many good units. There's an extra bridge so you can turtle as efficiently as in Fire Emblem 7, but we're not going to care about that too much because we need to rush. And like overall this game, since it doesn't have really good weapons, it doesn't have very good units, it's going to be much more difficult to rush down chapters. So we're basically going to have to manipulate RNG much more than Fire Emblem 7 and Fire Emblem 8. If you look at runs of Fire Emblem 7 and 8, you're going to see quite a few RNG manipulation with the pass-through tracing with a cursor. It's better long term for time-wise, but you don't need it, as was shown in previous routes. This game you need all the pass-through trace because you need better Shanna. Shanna starts with really low strength. Marcus isn't as good as in Fire Emblem 7, nor is he as good as Seth in Fire Emblem 8. So like, you really need all the everything to work out, and it's really hard to get everything to work out.
Yeah.
Just like Alec mentioned before, gates and thrones have really ridiculous bonuses, so it's really shaky to hit the boss. And yeah, this game is.
And you saw him buy a couple 1 to 2 range items, weapons there.
Javelins and hand axes.
Yeah,
yes.
the use there is pretty self-explanatory. They can hit from 1 or 2 range. So if an enemy has one of those, or a range that they could otherwise attack your unit with and avoid being counterattacked, they're going to do that. So if you have 1 to 2 range, then any enemy that comes at you, you'll be able to counterattack. Like you notice Wolt up here in the top, he's not counterattacking the enemy that is attacking him, and that's good because that's fast.
F.
Oh, F. Anyway, so that's the reason behind getting javelins, which are the most common ones, since most of the most mobile classes have javelins as their default weapon.
So the problem with javelin and hand axes in this game is that they're really inaccurate.
Yeah, I think it's like 70 for javelins.
Hey, you look familiar, huh? I think I've seen you in another game.
Yeah, there's some
Except he actually dies in this game.
there's
Yeah.
some rather either reused or just palette swap bosses in here.
So usually you want to reset every chapter so that you can, like, in case you have a trouble on the chapter, like you're not following the route properly, you can just reset the chapter and go on. This is an exception in the old chapter route because hitting that seed allows us to get to get a really good RNG setup for this enemy phase right here and allow us to save a turn.
Yeah, so we also killed off Wolt because we can't rearrange our unit starting positions at this point, and Wolt takes up a spot in the left side. So by sacrificing him, our mounted units end up farther on the left, which allows us to get a 2-turn on this chapter. On top of that, if we ended up resetting the RNG, we would need 28 sets of random number burns for the boss kill to work out, because we need to hit a 50% hit, 4% crit on top of a strength speed level up on Marcus. But by maintaining the same RNG seed from the end of the previous chapter, we don't have to do anywhere near as much burning.
Yeah, even if manipulating RNG pretty much allow you to have most outcome be predictable, it's still really hard to get one that's done somewhat fast in an RTA setting. If you're trying to do a task, which is basically doing every input frame by frame, you're able to just burn an enormous amount of RNG every time you do password tracing. But
50% hit, 5% crit.
it's much more difficult in an RTA setting to try to burn more than 20 random numbers.
Strength, skill, speed. And this chapter is scary because if I mess it up, then I have to start all the way back from the start of chapter 4. And there isn't really a backup for it because I was lazy. All right, we actually have preps. What a long prep session there.
Used to be much longer here. Hey, Kirby routed this game so that basically there were much less player actions for efficiency purpose.
Yeah, we want to minimize the amount of inventory management we do in the base. One, because it's faster, and two, it's just easier to memorize because the base and managing inventory in the base is notoriously the most difficult part of Fire Emblem speedruns because you have no downtime, and usually it's just really fast-paced, and the menus are really responsive, and you just have to know on the fly what you have to do perfectly.
I'm sure you can manage without it anyway.
Yeah, and sometimes it's actually completely intentional to get a certain character down to really low HP so that the enemies will attack them.
Yeah, enemy AI tends to prioritize units they can finish off. So Shauna, I had to find a scene where Shauna is low on HP, gets a good level up here, and actually survives and hits as much as possible. Ideally, we'd have Shauna with a javelin equipped, but the problem is that javelins are weak and she actually wouldn't be able to kill everything with it. But she just got a point in strength, so now she can start finishing off all the units with the javelin.
Yeah, just worth mentioning that so far Shanna has been getting, on every level up, she's been getting strength. So now she's pretty strength-blessed considering she's only supposed to get 1 point in strength every 3 level ups. That sounds right.
Yeah, so the boss here is really dodgy, and he's also absurdly fast. Like, he has 14 speed, Marcus can't double him, Shauna can't even double him without weighing herself down. So we're going to equip an Iron Sword on Marcus and try to manipulate a 4% crit on the boss. With you trying to manipulate a 4% crit on any other weapon won't work just because Marcus is going to miss. Like, even with an Iron Sword, I think he has like roughly 60 hit.
Yeah, so Iron Sword are supposedly are actually the most accurate weapon. Maybe with Fire Tomes, but like, who cares about magic anyway?
I think Fire and Iron Swords have like 90 hit, 85, 90, something like that. For comparison, most axes have like roughly 60 hit.
Well,
so
basically, if you are using axes in this game, you're just never gonna hit.
You're axing for trouble.
Axing for trouble. Good one.
Not to mention, axe users tend to have lower skill. In addition, they tend to focus more on strength, growth, and bases, so...
Which makes them kind of fun to use, because it's kind of like playing the lottery, especially when you get Berserkers with the high crits. It's like, will I actually hit, or will I just one-shot this enemy with a crit?
Or if Gonzalez, maybe you just one-shot the enemy anyway.
As long as you hit.
Yeah.
So something worth mentioning about our RNG and password tracing. The RNG you burn isn't saved because every time the game saves is when you confirm an option. So like do a password trace, oh wait, I messed up, I can just reset and go back to the previous save before I did the RNG manipulation, and it's still going to work out.
As long as you don't basically finalize that action. Once it's finalized, then you're stuck with what you just did.
When Legrand said, oops, I made a mistake, I freaked out for a second. I'm like, oh, did I mess something up? Oops. Alright, so this chapter is notoriously known as one of the hardest chapters in the game, for good reason, because it's a really big map with a lot of side objectives and a lot of extra units you can recruit. And this chapter also introduces Wyvern Riders. And Wyvern Riders are basically beefed up Pegasus Knights, where they have really high defense, they have mobility, and they have high mobility, they're really tanky, they can fly, they're just really scary.
Yeah, there's a reason why the invading country burn just have a lot of wyverns. That's just because they're really good.
That crit was manipulated. We have the Fighter Bros deployed, actually. Shout out to Spoon Rhythm, who did an amazing screenshot Let's Play, where his Wade turned out to be an amazing god. So Wade's about to get a kill here, and this is all for Spoon Rhythm. if he's watching.
Yeah, the hammer somehow is useful here.
Yeah. Wait. Woo! Hammer.
Boop.
Yay. All right.
Oh boy, wait.
So we want to get Roy as close as possible to the upper right corner because we're about to recruit 2 new units, Gerard and Trek. Gerard, the most important unit is Gerard in this case.
Yeah, so Gerard is basically Marcus, but slightly better, but not really, because right now our Marcus has gotten a lot of strength and speed. So it's basically a second paladin, second 8-move cavalier. So it's gonna be really useful. Paladins are really cool because they have full control over their weapon triangle, which we did not explain. So they have access to sword, lances, and axes. And basically, weapon triangle is a thing pretty classic in Fire Emblem. Sword beats axes, axes beat lances, and lances beat swords. Yeah.
So the thing about the weapon triangle is that a lot of people kind of exaggerated its effect, and it is nice to keep into account, but usually it's not as much of a deal breaker, at least in the earlier Fire Emblems.
Yeah.
Like having weapon triangle advantage gives you basically like +1 attack, +1 defense, a little bit of extra hit and avoid, but it's usually not really a deal breaker. So like it's not the end of the world if you end up using a sword against the lance.
It's still very much noticeable in the early chapters, because like you can go from 60% hit to 70% hit, and that can make a difference. But like the more you play, the more you go into the game, the less it's going to matter in the end.
So in a speedrun setting, we kind of want to avoid as much combat as possible, which is kind of sort of the opposite of what's called a low turn count, or LTC, because in an LTC setting, as long as you don't lose turns, you're free to get as many kills as you want to train up extra units. In this case, in a speedrun setting, our restriction is time and not turns.
Yeah.
So we want to avoid training up more units. We want to low man as much as possible and avoid combat. So what we have here is Trek kind of being a bait here, and what I'm going to do with him is kind of just run away with him.
Yeah, so we're probably going to have time later on to explain more the differences between the LTC for this game and the differences between RTA and LTC. But it's like very interesting to look into it. I looked into the latest LTC for this game, and it's really, really, really interesting to see the route. There is some really, really wide stuff there.
Hi, Trek. Peace out. So most of these units are just not going to attack anything.
Yeah, so we still need level up on Shanna, because she's going to be promoting on the next chapter. So
could we explain what promotion is?
Sure. So promotions, it's the 2 tiers of unit, basically. You have your base tier, and then you have a higher one. So for example, you're seeing a lot of paladins and then cavaliers. Cavaliers class up into paladins, and there's an equivalent for each of your classes. And not only do they get that extra point and move, they also get stat bonuses and often access to another weapon type. Both of those are important. So Shanna is going to be faster, at least in terms of map movement, once she classes up into a Falco Knight. So that's important. She's also going to get a lot of nice stat boosts, including to Constitution and Speed, so she's more easily able to double the enemies she's fighting. And that's going to be the case for any other unit that you train. You also just saw him move that little mage left. That is because one of the requirements for all chapters is that you actually do all the chapters, and they're Gaiden chapters. The one that you can trigger after this map is triggered if she survives. So he's basically making sure she survives in a pretty simple way.
Yep, just lure the archer away, have Shauna finish him off. So all chapters, we never really explained the category, but we want to beat every Gaiden chapter, which are basically optional chapters. And there are, I believe, 5 Gaiden chapters. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then if you have every Gaiden chapter completed on top of all the divine weapons unbroken, then you have access to 2 more chapters afterwards.
yeah, and the true ending.
You have access to true ending. We don't call this true ending for reasons we'll talk about at end game.
Yeah. So yeah, like in this game, actually promotion bonuses change from game to game in terms of stats. This game, the promotion bonuses are huge. Like basically, Shanna is going to get, in terms of defense, Pegasus Knight is usually really weak in terms of survivability. which is not really interesting here because she actually needs to be low HP in order to get targeted more. But anyway, like her bonuses is going to be plus 6 HP, plus 2 defense, and plus 2 in every stat pretty much. That's insane. Like basically a promotion bonus in this game is going to make a somewhat decent unit or even bad unit look good and feel good to use. Like suddenly oh hey, I'm usable. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the knight that attacked Marcus could have one-shotted him because he's using a Horse Slayer. It's actually annoying to manipulate because I have to make sure Marcus doesn't die to the Horse Slayer knight on top of giving Roy a good level.
Yeah, so in this game, since enemies have logs, they have a little bit more percent in terms of hitting enemy units, so they can actually pretty easily hit you. So you gotta be careful about it.
So yeah, this chapter is kind of a bit of a slogfest. I think the speedrun takes like roughly 16 turns, so we can squeeze in a few donations while we're just kind of trudging through this.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. We have a $25 donation from Zach that says Fire Emblem with a smiley face at the end.
Smile.
We have a $10 donation from Claris.
Hi, Claris.
Girl.
Says, hey Kirby, good luck on the Fire Emblem 6 run. You're going to do great. This donation goes towards naming Guy girl because girl and girl as well as girl.
Girl. Girl.
Claris is a good friend of mine.
And
She likes talking about how she's a girl.
I do also really like naming Guy girl.
Girl.
Yeah, it's pretty glorious. We have a $30 donation from JQ saying, thanks for supporting such a great cause. These runs have all been super fun. We have a $6 donation from Locke saying, love Kirby and his Fire Emblem runs. Great game to come home to after work.
All right, so this is the turn where I like to call a cluster insert curse word of a turn because after a bunch of nothing that happened in this chapter, we have all these enemies attacking us, and Marcus and Shauna both have javelins equipped to counterattack as much as possible. We have to make sure... Yeah, that's good level. they all have to survive, of course, and Roy and Shauna both die in one more hit, I think. And we also need to make sure that they get good levels. Roy is starts with D rank swords. So weapon rank is a system in this game where basically your weapon rank determines what weapons you can use. So in Roy's case, he starts with D rank swords. So you can use iron swords, slim swords, steel swords, armor slayer as well. But he can't use C rank weapons or above. But he's about to weapon level up right here, which is going to be really nice because it's going to allow us to use Roy to use other weapons like the Killing Edge or the Light Brand, which you just got right here. Or Worm Slayer, which we're going to get in a few chapters as well. And just swords just have really solid weapons all around and makes Roy a really competent unit as a sword user.
They really get the point across.
Yeah.
Yeah, and compared to FE7 or FE8, considering that swords have such a good hit rate, and that this game is more player phase driven because it's so hard to kill enemies in one turn in one attack. Even if you double them, it's really nice to just have an accurate weapon that can do accurate damage on player phase.
Yeah, so typically in many Fire Emblem games, being sword locked, meaning you can't use anything besides swords, is kind of seen as a bad thing because swords typically don't have a reliable 1-2 range weapon like lances and axes do. But meaning that sword users usually can't counterattack other 2-range units. But in the case of Fire Emblem 6, having that extra accuracy is so important that it makes sword users really important in this game.
Yeah,
oh hey, have a crit. So I just looked for the first seed where Marcus got a crit, and he just got critted on and survived at 1 HP, and it just so happened to be the fastest seed. So here we go. Here, have another crit.
Yeah, that guy has a killer lance. So killer weapons in this game have like 20%, 25% crit chance by cat.
I goofed. You did. We finish her off because she's gonna waste time every turn after this chapter. I mean, in this chapter.
Is she even going to appear in the next chapters?
No, she's actually dead, so she's not gonna spawn.
I mean, like if she would survive.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
I think so. Yeah.
So this boss is Legans. He's notorious because even though his stats aren't super impressive, he's pretty bulky and
defense.
He's on a throne. So he's really dodgy despite his bad speed.
Yeah, up until now we've only seen gates. This is the first throne.
This is the actual throne with 30 avoid. And Marcus can't kill him with an armor slayer without a crit. Do we correct? Yes, okay. So we have him at pretty low HP, so we're going to humiliate him by killing him with a slim lance. Woo!
Boop. Also, 58% hit rate with a very accurate.
Yeah, with
weapon.
that slim lance and ridiculous skill and luck, Shauna only has 58 hit. Like, just think about that.
Also, remember to turn animations off in a second.
Wait, what are those? It's not like I've ever forgotten in past marathon runs.
Nope.
Not
here, I have a crit.
even once.
Also, yeah, Shanna maxed out speed earlier, so on your unpromoted class, all the stats are maxed out to 20 except HP. That is always going to be at a max at 60.
Muscle memory. So I'm moving Roy next to Shauna because there's actually a support system in this game where if 2 units spend enough number of turns together adjacent to each other, they can build up a support. And we're going to have Roy and Shauna make out. I did that incorrectly. Wait a second. Okay, good. It didn't save the actual convoy sending. Even if it did save me sending an Armor Slayer, I can improv the inventory management there, so it wouldn't really affect the RNG. But I know that the menu there is going to mess me up if I send an Armor Slayer instead. So
yeah, because like you practice with a usual menu, and when you look at notes for this game or just do things in this game, it's really just you know the inputs you have to do more than what actions you do and why you do them. So like mess up your inventory management and you're in for trouble.
yeah, like usually I don't even pay attention to what my actual inventory is. I just muscle memory what I have to do from a lot of practice.
Yeah, so this is the first Gaiden chapter. And as you can see, it has a gimmick. Most of them do, but she's basically just flying around here using the Elysian Whip to promote. You'll see the stats just
Look at
shoot
these
up.
stats skyrocket. Everyone wishes they had this kind of Shauna. 18 strength, 22 speed, plus 6 HP.
Only after 14 levels.
I've had one close to that at about 17, but with like 4 or 5 fewer strength.
That doesn't surprise me. Her
Yeah.
strength growth is pretty bad. So the thing about promotion is that in Shauna's case, she can now use swords. And she starts with E-rank swords. Near endgame, we need her to be able to use the Armor Slayer for just one boss. But that requires having a D-rank in sword. So what I want to do throughout the run is to try to use the Iron Sword as much as possible where I lose minimal time.
Yeah, and it's really difficult when you have access to much better lance weapons later on. So, like for example, you have the slim lance the silver lance right now, which is really good might weapon compared to the Iron Sword.
It's kind of annoying to find opportunities to use the Iron Sword, despite its good accuracy, because like it's really weak and it suffices for now. But later on, Shauna's going to be pretty restricted by her low strength cap, and the Iron Sword just isn't going to do much. So in this game, if I remember correctly, you need 50 weapon experience to increase your weapon rank. Typically speaking, every hit you land will increase your weapon, give you 1 weapon experience, and if it's a killing blow, it gives you 2.
Yeah, this game is pretty notorious for having really bad weapon experience system, where like it goes like
Oh,
this guy.
how did you find yourselves in here? He's a notorious boss. He is really difficult to take down. Ah, blast.
I think you only have like 50% hits on
Yeah,
this guy.
with Silver
right now.
Lance, it's only roughly 50 hit.
That's great. Good boss. Our Durandal is the first legendary weapon. It's a very good sword. It has +5. It gives +5 strengths. That goes past your cap. Very good accuracy, and even though it weighs a little bit, it's still like very
I think it's 17 might. Roy's Binding Blade has 18 might.
Yeah, it's insane
They're both really good weapons.
for different reasons.
All right.
It does require an S rank to use.
All right, so Fog of War, we never explained that. So each character can see a certain number of tiles away from where they are, and that's about all we care about because, you know, we can fly and just make no one move because no one can reach us. So feel free to read a quick donation while we have these really long enemy faces.
We have a $125 donation from Gunarm Dine saying, Punarm Dine here. You know more of this was on its way. They say that puns are the only type of joke that can cause physical pain, but it certainly isn't a sin to crack one. And they aren't as easy to come up with as you might think. It's a real mental trek to wade through a bunch of potential names for ideas in many cases, but any Fire Emblem game certainly has Zealot to choose from. So no fear in being stumped on ideas for this one.
Fear. Hi, Fear.
The conditions here have been great. Thus, Fa.
He's
Nice
using
and
the
sunny,
old names.
not too windy, not too warm. Hopefully it lasts for the week, but Sophia, so good.
I messed this up like 3 times because of that.
Good job.
It's all your fault. Okay, give me a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
So-
8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
So we need to land a 3% crit, 47 hit with a strength level up.
And also, that guy has a 50% crit rate. You don't want to get hit by that guy.
Yeah.
So Zealot is the more direct but kind of awkward translation of
Hi. Hi. Bye.
of Jarrett's name. So same
Yeah.
character.
Yeah,
Yes.
ever since Fire Emblem Heroes, we got the translation for a lot of characters. Pretty much all of them, actually.
Yeah.
The official translations. Up until now, we were just using.
What? Oh.
We're just using like fan translated names with just translating the Japanese names, and now we have actual names, and that's what we're using here for this fan translation.
Thanks for a heroic translation effort.
So yeah, you see the strat. You're gonna see the strat quite a bit. Hi, Geese. This is an NPC. His name is Geese. He has a really nice weapon, because it's a brave weapon which can hit twice. We would like to recruit him, but it takes way too long to recruit him.
And
It's also-
Shanna can't use axes, so anyway, it's not
Yeah,
that
it's kind of
much.
whatever. It will be nice on like someone like a paladin who can use axes, but oh well, it's not a big deal.
It's also worth mentioning.
Go, Geese, go! He just killed a fighter or pirate.
It's also
Oh.
worth.
Oh,
Aw, bye, geese.
bye.
But anyway, this is actually one of 2 potential paths that have branched out. This happens twice in the game, where depending on your actions, you can go and do one of 2 sets of 2 missions. Obviously, you can't do both. So the all chapters doesn't. It takes that into account. It's all the ones you can actually do.
In one playthrough.
Yeah.
We got a Wormslayer. That's a really good weapon that
It
Roy can
is.
use because he has C-rank swords now. Yay.
So, Wormslayer is efficient against wyverns. What you can access as well with Searing Sword is Killing Edge. I was having the French name in my head for a while. And the Light Rend that has 1-2 range, and it's the only sword that has 1-2 range. It always deals 10 damage every time you use it, whatever your strength is. But it's still 1-2 range, so that's pretty useful, right?
So what we're saying is it's 10 out of 10.
So what I messed up there is that I was supposed to wait that cutscene out, because in cutscenes, the game was lazy in terms of like saying, oh, this unit should go to this tile. So what the game does is it actually uses the RNG to determine what path they will take. So right here, these wyverns moving on the screen actually uses the RNG, and I skipped that cutscene too early, which messed things up, which is why I had to restart the chapter. And there are quite a few cutscenes like that throughout the run that I have to be wary of.
Actually, the very, very first cutscene, the first chapter, is one of them.
Yeah, that's why we said, yeah, we got past the worst run killer, because literally the first thing is you have to wait out on the fighters moving on the screen so you get the correct seed.
Yeah, you have to wait a little bit, but not all of it, because otherwise there is going to be too much RNG burned on the first chapter, and that's going to mess up these things.
All right, so there is a 4-turn strat. I'm doing a 4-turn strat. There is a 3-turn strat you can do that's really a little faster, but the problem is we have to do a lot more RNG manipulation to get a kill on the boss and a good level. Whereas I'm doing a 4-turn strat here because it's around the same speed anyways, and it has the benefit of allowing Roy and Shauna to have more conversations for one more turn to build up their support.
Yeah, and that support is going to be built up exactly right on time.
We need every turn we can get where their support to build up their support. We need 60 turns for them to be adjacent and or rescuing each other.
And then they can be friends. Even though they've spent this whole war together, they're only becoming friends by the end.
Yeah.
Is that the same in every Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem, or is it longer in other games or shorter?
You mean like 60 turns? It depends on there are a lot of variables.
Yeah.
You need 60 points of support to increase your support level. Every pair has like a different starting set. like starting number of points. Like for example, Ellie and Hector start with a lot of points, which is why they get their C support really quickly. And every character pairing also has like a different support growth. So the slowest support growth is +1 per turn, and Roy and Shauna start at literally 0 support points with the lowest growth, which is why it takes freaking 60 turns.
Yeah, Roy has a really high affinity with Lilina, who is Hector's daughter.
I think Roy Lilina support builds up like 4 points per turn? 3 or 4 points. It's
something
really
stupid
fast.
like that. And
Yeah.
they start with higher than 0 at the very least. And he also has good affinity with Alan Lance.
Alan Lance. That's a
and
popular
Marcus.
support triangle.
Yeah, so like you have better options than Shanna usually, but Shanna is the only one that matters here. And like supports don't really matter too much most of the time, but here it's going to be interesting. We're gonna talk about that whenever we get there.
Meanwhile, he's also being careful in this chapter, which is also where the two potential routes converge here. And there is a staff user down towards the bottom of the screen that is kind of hard to access, so he's just carefully remaining out of range.
Yep. Unfortunately, Chad can't get out of that range in one move. So what I'm going to do is have Marcus just rescue him out of there. We want to avoid status saves as much as possible, not only because, well, getting hit by them is really bad, but also because they have a really long map and animation associated with them. In fact, we're intentionally going to burn a turn or two in this chapter just to avoid the sleep animation, because the sleep animation is longer than wasting a turn.
Long enough to put you to sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there is a turn requirement on this chapter to access the Gaiden chapter, but it's 20 turns, and that's a lot more than what we need to finish this chapter.
Yeah, like
in an RTA setting, or even just casually, you have enough time to finish
you have
this.
plenty of time as long as you don't turtle up every turn. And like kind of echoing what Mecha said in his playthrough of this chapter, like there's no reason to be so paranoid casually about the turn count here. Just as long as you're slowly moving forward, you're fine. 20 turns is a lot more than people think.
Yeah, usually you finish maps in like 10 turns if you go moderately fast, which is just keep going forward and just not waste turn at one place, just trying to heal everyone before moving on. Like you're gonna finish maps in 10 turns usually. This map is no exception. There is going to be exceptions later on, but yeah. So what we're doing on the right side is we're trying to get another Legion whip to promote another flyer later on, and also get a blue gem so that we can get more money. Money is really important in this run, much more than any other Fire Emblem, for a reason we're gonna explain later.
All right, we're almost done with the chapter. So the boss is really scary. He's a Manakete, meaning he has ridiculous defense and 23 defense. Shauna can't do any damage to him without a silver weapon. So what we're gonna do is instead plop Roy.
Did you?
I was supposed to burn Arns there. Ooh, wait a second.
Yeah, no, you're.
7. I'm gonna try that. Wait, no, I forgot to drop him. Yeah, no. That is unfortunate.
So
Well,
yeah.
that's the first huge mistake.
As I explained at the start, we just save on every chapter so that we have this backup if something goes wrong. You don't have to save on every chapter if you played perfectly. Well, that would also mean that you wouldn't reset the RNG every time, so you would just deal with the RNG of the previous chapter. But like just for RTA settings, it's just much better to do that. Typically in a task, you don't save on any chapter because it's slow, it wastes frames. Like that isn't in this game, even though they both manipulate RNG, it's going to be widely different. Like sure, the RTA strats are going to be using what the task does, but we don't have the as many tools to do whatever we want, like a task.
And then this is going to take about that same amount of time it did last time, so if you want to read off a few
This
donations.
is a good time for a
yep.
few donations.
All right, finishing up that Gunarm Dine donation.
Oh dear.
sorry.
Oh dear. Did we
there's-
interrupt you?
Yeah, there's actually more.
Oh god.
It's also nice
Oh,
weather to
yes.
go for a nice walk, so be sure to get out there and feel the burn. Good luck, Kirbymastah, and remember, if your boy Roy is actually a Koopaling wielding a magic wand to cause mischief around the Magic Kingdom, you're playing the wrong game.
I just love all the Roy memes from Smash. They're just so good.
We have a $25 donation from Ryan40 with no comment.
Thank you.
We have a $10 donation from UEs saying wanted to donate during a run of one of my favorite RPG series. We have a $100 donation from Andrew 235 with no comment. Thank you for the donations. We have a $22 donation from Crash Boom Bang saying, "Hey Kirby, Crash
Hey,
here.
Crash Boom Bang.
So you're gonna B-root and recruit Barter, right?" Donated $22 because it's the same number as Barter's base strength. The highest in the game, warrior power.
Crash Boom Bang's around in a lot of the Fire Emblem communities and does keep up with some of the speedruns.
And just a
Shoutouts to him.
quick aside, the B path, when I said it split, that's the other one. He would have had to visit a specific village, rather, if I can talk, in that Fog of War chapter. That obviously would have been a bit of a hassle.
Right. So like in this route split, the route I took allows us to recruit Echidna, which we skipped because we want to go fast. But the other route would allow us to recruit Barter and Bartre or Barter. Let's call him Barter. 'Cause why not?
No.
Let's call him Barter. But in other words, they're both mutually exclusive characters, and so are Elfin and Laylim, who are the respective Bard and Dancer. We actually got Laylim like last chapter, but we haven't really used her yet. She will be very important soon.
So I'm curious, what's the process for actually like digging through RNG seeds to know like how many numbers to burn, like what the optimal number is, and what your results are going to be when you do? Do you have a program to actually check this, or do you just let the game run and burn random numbers until you get what you want?
Both. The ground can go into this while I focus on this.
Yeah, so we usually use a Lua script that displays the RNG on the side. So like we can see all the numbers that are going to be used. We also know how RNG is going to be used. So well, besides enemy phase is really tricky to manipulate. So like at first we really only had that, just the list, and that's it. Just deal with it. We could also search for certain seeds, which was pretty useful whenever you wanted to try and find the outcome that you want. Fast forwarding to today, the Lua that we have was improved by Viking 12.
And TR143, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That name is hard to pronounce for me. And now we can actually have a way to manipulate enemy phase. Basically, it's a program where we're going to start the enemy phase, and that's going to start a save state, and it's going to go through that enemy phase over and over again, increasing the iron number by 1, so that way we're going to be able to see very, very, very fast every possible outcome in the enemy phase. Otherwise, you would have to do it manually, and I can tell you, getting 20 errands burned at some point because you've done 1 to 19, it's really, 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 really annoying. And sometimes you have to do that many in order to get a good outcome. It's
or
a
more.
mess.
Yeah, so like the thing is, it's not too bad to try to manipulate something on player phase because we have total control over the RNG. We can easily nail it on like the 4th seed or the 10th seed. So that it kind of comes down to which seed do we want. Okay, now how do we get to the seed with the cursor burns? And that kind of comes down to a lot of trial and error. Enemy phases is complete trial and error for all intents and purposes because we can't directly affect the RNG in the middle of the enemy phase. So we pretty much just have to do what Legrand runs in and just try an RN, play the enemy phase. Is it what we want? No, try the next one and keep repeating that. And usually I try to like go through at least 50 seeds per turn just to see like which one ended up being like the fastest overall, which one allows us to conveniently get to that seed more quickly or not. Because there are some cases where like, yes, you can get a seed that's faster, but since it's so far away in the RNG, it's not worth burning that much to get to that seed.
Yeah, that's typically something that you wouldn't ever do back then. So like the routing was basically, hey, is that enemy phase actually going to work, and am I going to be able to play with it? Yes. Okay, let's move on. That was it. But now Kirby did a big reroute of FS6, 7, and A using those tools, and well, TR143 also did that, and that just having this tool made that process really, really fast. Just worth mentioning that you can actually manipulate RNG without, like you can tell what the errands are going to be, if it's going to be under 50% or 50 by using cursor movement. There is a lot of way to do it. So you can do it on console. But good luck doing that when you are on chapter 15 and you need to get a perfect enemy phase. So you have to redo that enemy phase about 50 times. So you have to reach that chapter turn 15 every time. That's just going to be a nightmare. It used to be a thing in Fire Emblem 7 on Chapter 19 of Elude mode because the emulator version, the ROM was broken. So you had to to manually do it on console because you couldn't use the emulator. And it took me 2 hours to just find one player phase level up.
Oh,
2 hours.
that doesn't
just
surprise
one
me.
level up.
Like the unfortunate thing about the GBA Fire Emblems is that the emulate running them on emulator, especially VBA, has like some anime AI inconsistencies, which makes syncing it with console kind of impossible in a few cases. So for example, the chapter where we had geese killed off, that was one example where the emulator actually desynced and I had to use a different strat for it to work on console.
Turned out that strat was actually faster.
Turns out the new strat I came up with was faster, so hey, it worked out. But if you do plan on like playing these games on like some sort of emulator or whatever, there are issues with unfortunately issues with like the ROM and the emulators, but for casual intents and purposes for casual, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's really just when you're trying to do RNG advanced stuff like RNG manipulations as advanced as this. It's going to matter when you're going to go back to console and realize, oh, it's not going to work. FSA is kind of fine about that. There was really just one instance so far where enemy AI was a problem. FE8 is much more notorious
It was so
for having
bad
that
about
problem.
it in Sacred Stones.
FE7 also has that problem as well, but it's I think it's in between both. I don't know exactly.
So yeah, that's what happens if you ask us about the routing process. We can go on and on about it.
Routing Fire Emblem is so interesting, but it takes so much time. And
I basically spent like a week of like 6 hours a night working on the any % route, like 2 months ago.
that's an hour-long run, by the way.
And
It's about an hour long, yeah.
And I'm thinking of routing the creature campaign in 8. I'm not sure if I actually want
And
to
then
because
since
of this.
any since all chapters was like an incentive, Ghoul asked me this. He asked me, "Oh, so have you bothered even touching the any % category to prep for this marathon?" And I said, "I played it exactly. Went through it exactly once over the past month." Probably shouldn't admit that, but because I mean it was okay because all chapters got met like almost instantly.
You know what that means, viewers? It means kirbymastah has faith in your generosity.
Yes, I do. Shoutouts to all of your donations. So we actually should talk about this chapter. We got who's considered the best unit in the game, Milady, and we promoted her instantly with the deletion we got like 2 chapters ago. She's not going to be really used for combat that much, but we do need her to have 8 move immediately to visit this armory here.
And also to give Shanna Roy back.
Wait, is that 13? I'll try again.
Anyway,
So-
he bought a bunch of killer weapons there. The general idea behind that is because they have a higher crit chance, he'll be able to much more easily manipulate criticals when he needs them, kind of like you see there, but he with a much higher bonus to that. So a killer lance, for example, would have a, I think a slim lance has
5 crit.
5 crit in this game. So a killer lance would have had an additional 25% on that crit chance there, as well as more damage. Slightly lower hit chance,
That
but hit.
double crit is really important. Shauna needed at least 18 skill to have 5 crit with a slim lance, and she needed 21 strength, I believe, to be able to kill the boss with a double slim lance crit, because slim lances are really weak.
So-
and there was no way for us to get a killer lance to her because we don't have any.
So if anyone has cheesed the desert
If you want to learn how to cheese the desert, here you go. This is a tutorial on that.
Yeah, so the idea is that there is a second set of RNG that we didn't talk about because it's only used here.
That should be fine. Nice silent staff.
Hi. So basically, every time you soft reset, that set of RN is resetted. And if you go in the item menu,
Stat menu.
I wasn't sure. So item menu is in Fire Emblem 7. Stat menu of a unit. Don't pop up any other menu. That's going to allow you to always get an item in the corresponding area for it.
We got the
100%. You can do that casually.
Yeah, if you just do exactly what I did, you can do it casually. Just guarantee finding the desert item. It's normally a 1 out of 11 chance unless you're a thief in this game, but just reset, resume chapter, look at the stat screen exactly once, wait on the tile, you'll get the item. Easy.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem 7 works exactly the same, sort of the same way. It's exactly the same in Hector hard mode, I believe, Whereas in all other modes, like Ellie with normal, Ellie with hard, and Hector with normal, you have to look at the equipment screen once. Why is it different? I don't know. It's Fire Emblem 7.
I'm gonna believe that it's because it's going to be a different set of RN, but it's an hypothesis here.
And Fire Emblem 8 Sacred Stones work completely differently with the desert RNG. It actually does not use like an independent RNG for desert items. It actually uses like one number from the main RNG. So you can't like just wing it and cheese it like you can with this without planning it ahead of time.
And also it uses luck as a percent.
It does use luck in Sacred Stones.
Yeah, because like it doesn't use luck in Fire Emblem 6 and 7.
I think the Iron Sword.
Yeah, that's...
I'm going to double check just in case.
Yeah. So in the practice room, Kirby did a practice run, and he just had the Killer Lance equipped here, and that messed up chapter 22.
Yeah, and that run ended up being incompletable, unfortunately. So
yeah,
well, let's hope it doesn't happen here.
That does kind of strike me as looking like Iron Sword damage, so...
I think it is. I think it's fine. Yeah, I think there's supposed to be a crit there.
It's just that you see 2 crits and you're like, wait, can you do that with an Iron Sword?
Let's double check just in case.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, we're good. We're
good,
good.
good.
Okay, so we're gonna go for desert hunting more items. I don't know what I just said. Did I look at our stat screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Warp.
So warp staves are very important in both low turn count runs and speed runs
Nice
of
silver
Fire
card.
Emblem games.
The silver card is an item that allows you to buy items at half price, which is important for endgame. Hi,
Yeah.
Sophia. Nice speed range,
rings.
or rather 4,000 gold. So fun story. All I tried to do was find the first convenient seed to get a crit on this boss. But, you know, the level up that resulted I didn't care about too much, but it just so happened that Shauna got this level up, literally a perfect level, and I'm like, all right, let's roll with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this seed right there, this crit into perfect level, crit with Killer Lance into perfect level, we're gonna use that on a few more chapters, just because it's a convenient crit, and also like, suddenly you get a good level, so why not?
Yeah.
Sure.
It won't look that amazing because she is getting pretty close to capping stats. I think she may have already capped speed
I think
at
she
this
capped
point.
speed already.
She did cap speed, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the Gaiden chapter. We forgot to mention the requirements. So the requirements for this Gaiden chapter was to beat the desert chapter in 20 or 25 turns. I know it's not 15, I just checked it. And also have Sophia alive. So an 90% run kind of differs a lot because you just have way fewer opportunities to train up Roy or Shauna, and you also need to go out of your way to avoid these Gaidens because there's no... If you meet the requirement, you're forced on the Gaiden. So an 90% run would, instead of keeping Sophia alive, would immediately kill her off. And similarly with killing off Lilina, you would kill off Lilina to skip the Gaiden.
Yeah, we're bad. We're killing cool waifus.
For Lilina. Hey, this enemy phase should be a lot more dangerous than it actually looks, but it ended up being that you don't really have to burn that many random numbers for this to work out, because you have all these magic users attacking Roy that would easily two-shot him, but they just happen to miss.
And somehow, yeah, like only the boss hit you, thankfully. Bye bye oats.
Where did you learn to fight like this? I had more oats than you, okay?
He's taking over your job.
Yeah, so
You need
something
to
to
step
note, we forgot to mention Siege Tomes. Siege Tomes are kind of annoying. They're weapons that have 10 range, so that's destroyed with Eclipse Tome. They're normally really scary, but in the case of Eclipse, it reduces the enemy HP to 1, which sounds really annoying and painful, but look at the hit rate. 32 hits on the Druid.
You pretty much have to try to get hit by that and be unlucky.
So as you can imagine, they get a bit overshadowed.
Yeah.
Alright, got 4 Blaze. We're not going to use it, even though it's pretty good because we don't have any mages in our team.
We don't have any like high-level mages, yeah.
Yeah, it is a thing in the LTC to actually train up a staff user to be able to use Warp much earlier, but that takes a long time, and this is a speed run instead, so you just find another way around it that is much faster.
Right, so for reference, the fastest way to get an early Warp user would be to train the Priest Saul. We would need to be able to promote him to gain a staff rank and also use a staff 50 times to get a staff rank to A after promotion. And the staff animations alone cost over 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Just think about that. On top of all the levels he has to gain to hit level 10, all the healing animations you have to go through, trying to find opportunities to heal or barrier up, and then promote him with an extra guiding ring.
Yeah,
you don't want to do this. For
Yeah.
Another good example is that the LTC actually uses 1D and gives her the secret tome so that she can actually create an enemy in the Western Isle. Somehow Wendy is actually very useful because she saves the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So about this chapter, it's pretty straightforward, but we do have two minor side objectives to make. Milady needs to visit the village on the right side to pick up the Hamern staff. The Hamern staff is a staff that repairs anything back to full usage, and we're going to be using that liberally on the warp staff so we can get as many uses out of it as possible in late game. Our other side objective is to recruit another unit who we can use Laylam, our dancer, for.
Yeah.
It's Percival, and it's pretty good.
So you've seen him using Laylam a lot, and
Look at those stats.
Yeah.
We get them for free. It's ridiculous.
she just
And A rank in sword and dances as well.
Like, he's easily our best combat unit after Roy Shauna, and he has a mount and 8 move, and respectable weapon ranks.
But you see him using the dance ability to use units to move again, and then often have Laylam then immediately be rescued by usually Milady, and then they just kind of fly off to an inaccessible area.
Yeah, so this map has a lot of side objectives, and it's really interesting, especially in the old chapter. Because the prerequisite for to gain the chapter is in this chapter, so you need to keep Douglas alive, and you can't recruit him. So
Douglas is this guy here.
yeah, he's annoying. He usually he can kill you, and you don't want to kill him, so you just have to deal with him on every enemy phase
That's
usually.
correct. Okay.
And after that, next to him, on that very top left corner, that's really out of the way, Zeus is going to come up, and
here.
he's blocked by a 100 HP wall, and we have to recruit that guy as well.
And our other side objective is this guy. He has a member card.
Member card, if you're not aware, opens opens secret shops, so that combined with the silver card is going to come in very handy later on.
And
Oh, I was
I
supposed to
think
dance
you missed
first.
it,
Yeah. Oh well, it's okay. At least it was turn 1.
that's what happens when you show stuff and you
Yeah,
go
you just
out
kind of
your way.
forget.
So while we're getting set up, do we have time for a quick donation?
Go for
Yeah.
it.
We have a $10 donation from Gwimpage51.
Gwimpage!
Sage.
Excuse me, Kirby, but can we ditch this Shauna loser and replace her with Best Wyvern Girl?
Freaking Gwimpage. He's another Fire Emblem runner. He's pretty well known for his wiggles, where he goes like,
Except better.
yeah, except better than that.
It's legendary.
He's very jittery. He's really chill. Everyone loves him. He's just such a cheerful guy.
Why didn't you come to RPG Limit Break? You
He's-
could have met each other.
I know. Seriously. Like, I mean, I commentated his Path of Radiance run from AGDQ a few years ago, and he's never commentated any of my runs, that loser.
You better come next year.
You better come to SGDQ for my Fates run there.
So yeah, so this chapter has a lot of side objectives, and we have really a lot of mobile units. Actually, we fielded all the 8 movement units we had. So it's Percival, Gerard, Marcus, Shanna, Melody,
Cecilia, and I think
Cecilia, and
that's it.
Percival.
Gerard, yes.
So that's a lot of units, and that's going to give us a lot of mobility. So we also have to bring Roy to the throne, by the way, which we've been doing all this chapter, but it's worth mentioning that it's another thing that we have to do. So that's a lot of things to do in this chapter, and having all these moves and rescue job is going to... You're going to see how effective this is going to be.
You will be moved by this setup.
Oh yeah, we have Fa deployed. Her role is to be a lure for that Purge Bishop. That's it.
Yeah, usually like Fa is really good at luring siege stones. Like really good. Because the enemy sees that she has low HP and 6
28
resistance naturally, they're naturally going to go for her, but she actually has 26, so they never do any damage. There is only in the chapter 21 that they start doing damage to her, and even then, if you leveled her up a little, she's not gonna die. And like it's in hard mode, so like she's pretty good at that. But yeah, Percival and Shanna are here to make the path clear for everyone to just come and rescue jobs however they want. And also this guy right there, this Sage Stone guy, it's kind of interesting to talk about because we used to get the longbow and give it to Igreen so that we could kill it and not care about enemy phase. Just as I explained earlier, manipulating an enemy phase was something that you didn't want to do back then. And Kirby managed to take it out, but apparently it only
Not a
saves
huge
3
deal.
seconds. So like, why would you take 6 hours to save 3 seconds? You don't want to do that.
So it ended up being a little bit faster to just not use a sniper to kill that mage, and instead just tank it basically. What I'm gonna be doing is an 8-turn strat, but Don came out years ago, came with like a speedrun 7-turn strat, which also used Gaiden with the Brave Bow, which allows her to attack twice, and that's important to help take out the wall quickly in order to get to Zeus. But after a lot of timing that I messed with, it ends up being faster to not use Gaiden at all and just take 8 turns instead. Again, you can see kind of how it's different from an LTC, where we intentionally take an extra turn just to avoid moving an extra unit every turn.
Yeah, like you would have to carry Gaiden all the way up to the left-hand side, and it takes a while. It makes the rescue chain a little more
Cooler.
interesting.
I wish it was still in. Like, it would be really awesome to have a sniper used in a speedrun like that, but unfortunately, it's like 3 seconds faster to do this instead.
Yeah, Gaiden
like
used to be used quite a few times in the speedrun, despite not being a mounted unit and a sniper on top of that. But Kirby managed to take her out on every route. pretty much.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, she was even used on the final chapter of the 80% route, but turns out that you can use Fa if you don't reset, which I didn't want to do back then. Because not resetting just can make you lose 10 minutes suddenly.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not running any percent, because I don't want to lose over 10 minutes to a mistake at endgame. Boop, boop. Okay, so we just got Roy from like here all the way to the throne room in one turn, and we're about to do the same thing again, this time with Milady. So we're gonna have Cecilia rescue Milady. We're gonna dance for Cecilia. Have Cecilia pass Milady over to Percival. Percival's gonna give Milady a javelin, and then pass Milady to Shauna, and also use his Flare Face to take out this knight that's blocking Shauna.
Remember that this general right there, we don't want to kill it.
We do not want to kill that general. So we want to minimize the time that he wastes.
Thankfully, he's slow and we only have fast units, so we're going to be able to misdirect him pretty well. Also, that mana kit right there doesn't move, so
Yeah,
we're safe.
It's not very threatening. So Milady got hit by a bolting tome a while ago, which took away a lot of HP, but it works out in our favor because that means Douglas, the general, is more tempted to attack her instead of Roy. And that means Milady can kind of lure Douglas away from her other units and in the long run save 1 round of combat.
Yeah, and the javelin that he passed to Milady, she already lost.
Yeah, that entire point of that javelin was just to give it to Shauna.
So if you're wondering why she isn't counterattacking, that's why. She'll be using it again right here, but... or maybe it's the other javelin. I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
It's a use one, and then we're just going to throw it out later. And now Douglas is just not going to attack anything. Hey.
This is kind of suicidal here.
I am strong. I am wise. I am beautiful. And most importantly, I am right. Always.
Also, the... just
Who are you,
the
Mecha?
sprite work on him. Like, the first time I saw an Arcean sprite, I'm like, okay then.
All of his points are right.
That guy is supposed to be super strong, but...
We have a Wormslayer, so whatever.
And the super buff Roy, by the way, as well. Because we didn't mention it, we only really mentioned Shanna. Shanna is super buffed, but Roy is super buffed as well. I think he maxed out speed already.
Yep,
yeah,
max speed.
Max speed, nearly max skill, and 17 strength is a lot more than pretty much any Roy you're ever gonna see.
Yeah.
Let's
Even
start that.
if at level 17 he's probably going to be around 12 in every stats. I'm not sure again. If you want more accurate stats, by the way, of everything, we're just doing that on top of our head. Just check out Serenest Forest. It has all the resources you ever want to see. And if you want to see more details about maps, enemy...
WOD is a good spot to go to.
It's a Spanish site, so sometimes chapters aren't translated, but you can mostly figure it out because there is a items icon anyway. Very, very good site if you want to handle things casually without getting surprised by enemies.
Check out this chapter. We have to kind of go all the way around and zigzag around. This is one of those chapters where it would be really nice to have a warp user, but it's not worth it given this chapter doesn't even last 5 minutes.
Yes, there's a few chapters like that, so once you get the warp, you can do a lot of skips, and Mecha that I think we've mentioned a lot of time has done a series like I think 7 or 8 years ago where it was just doing the chapter independently and using as like trying to do the chapter as fast as it would possibly be without caring about any other chapter.
Meaning you would see a chapter where he uses warp like 15 times.
Yeah, or have characters already 2020 with max stats. Like that's not ever going to be done fast in even in LTC or like casually. That's going to take 60 turns. But like he's still going to have that and manage to finish chapters in 1 or 2 turns even.
And just think of how much money you'd have from all that arena grinding.
Ooh. All right, so this chapter does have a gimmick you might have noticed, where there are these light arrows kind of shoot across specific columns. It's kind of arbitrary. It's not technically random, but isn't really a noticeable pattern behind them unless you just look it up online yourself. And they do 10 damage to everything in the way, I believe.
Yeah.
And this chapter, that gimmick, this exact map is actually in Sacred Stones as a cameo in the Tower of Falni. So if you recognize this map, that's where you might have seen it from.
Yeah, it just has gray palette for it instead of white, yellow thingies, and also monsters.
But by the way, we're about to see one of the most useful generals in the game.
Go
Douglas! Oh, I love his palette. Like the purple on the general is just so sick. I think
Generals are so cool usually.
general animations are my favorite, honestly.
It just sucks that they can't keep up with anyone else.
So what you're saying is they're generally useless.
Yeah, they're useless in general.
And even in Douglas's case, he's so fat. Like 17 Constitution means like basically nobody can rescue him. Like Shauna has 15A, and she has one of the highest 8s in the game, and that's not enough to pick him up.
Yeah, actually, I think Shin has the highest one, and it's 18. So he's the only one pretty much who can carry Douglas.
Yeah, so these enemy faces here are kind of obnoxious because we have all these Siege Tome users and staff users trying to hit us, snipe us, put us to sleep, etc. And finding the appropriate seed where this works out is really annoying because we're in really tight corridors, and tight corridors means that even if you have high movement, you don't have as many possible random paths to force the game to calculate. Meaning it's a lot harder to burn through random numbers quickly. So like all that I did right there probably only burn like 2 or 3 each.
Yeah, so like in older routes we used to have to manipulate more RNG. So we used to use a melody all the way back, but that means moving the camera all the way down and then moving it back all the way up. It was tedious. It can work, so apparently it can work, which is just China.
Yeah, so there's only one turn where I use like Milady to burn random numbers, just to burn even more random numbers quickly. Because I kind of want to avoid doing that, so I don't have to do this and then do woo over and over again, because it just is just really slow. Are you supposed to target that?
Yeah,
I don't
think
remember.
so.
That's supposed to happen. Well,
It's
if
not-
Roy dies, then we know I did something wrong.
Yeah.
We should be
Pretty
good.
much.
I think we're good, though. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, he's supposed to use a Berserk, but not sure on who.
All right, here's an awkward burn. Here, have a crit.
And yes, that somehow burns.
You look
burns
familiar? Ha. Yeah, we've seen his face in Chapter 11, and we're about to see it again. As Alec mentioned, because this game recycles a lot of boss portraits with a different color palette.
So this is the second route split and the biggest one.
Mhm.
So this route split is we're going to Ilya here. The second possible way is to go to sacae with a lot of nomad troopers and nomads, which are really fast and really annoying because they have bows. So you have to use 1-2 range if you want to deal with them with your 1 range unit. And they're also really fast.
He didn't even recruit either of them.
Yeah, in order to go to sacae, you need to have nomads have higher levels than your Pegasus Knights, so it's Tate and Shanna. But like we only have Shanna in our team. We don't
even have the other
CCR
Pegasus
levels.
Knight.
Yeah.
It takes too long to recruit her.
Shauna is literally the only of the 4 relevant units that is on the team.
I'm not sure what a default is. It's like you don't use any of them. I feel like there has to be a default, but I'm not sure.
Well, it's gonna be depends on how many levels you have on the nomads and on
Like-
the Pegasus.
But like that's it if you don't recruit any of them and or don't give any experience.
then you're probably going to Ilya because you only have Shanna.
Yeah, maybe. I don't really know off the top of my head.
Anyway, the fun fact about LTC, and we mentioned how LTC could be different, is that it's actually faster to go to sacae because I don't know how many turns you save, but it's actually faster in terms of amount of
counts.
turns.
Yeah,
So
Sakai's
you
better for that.
basically train Shanna still because she's really good. She's a flyer. She can fly Roy around. But that also means that you need to have Sue and Shin keep up with Shanna's level. So that's 2 units you have to train in order to save turns.
And it's not a bad idea because Sue and Shin are both respectable units,
Yeah.
especially in hard mode for Shin's case because he's considered the best
Yeah.
bow user in the game in hard mode.
It definitely is.
Yeah, one of the things about hard mode is that there are a few units in this game that actually get higher base stats in hard mode for whatever reason. Not gonna say it's a bad thing, but
Basically, every enemy unit gets bonus stats on enemy in hard mode, and it's true also for the people you can recruit. So yeah, you keep those bonus stats when you recruit them.
Good job, me. I remember to equip the Iron Sword.
This map is really tedious if you don't have flyers, but
There is a gimmick in this map where after a certain number of turns, the rivers freeze and you can walk across them, but like we're just using Shauna, so who cares? Using the same exploit where Shauna will be intentionally left on low HP so more enemies attack her, and this is the last convenient time for her to train her sword rank. Using an Iron Sword anywhere else will cost more time, so I need her to hit D rank swords by the end of this chapter. That actually counts. That actually counts as one weapon experience, by the way. Misses do count. And again, I want her low on HP, so this is intentional. And we're just gonna watch Shauna just kind of clean house.
yeah, and misses don't always count in other games.
I don't remember how it works in the other Fire Emblems. I just know Mrs. Count because Spoon Rhythm came up with this amazing strat where he had like Douglas and Boris just throwing hand axes at each other, missing repeatedly, which built up the weapon experience. And it worked so well because it was a great way to distract Douglas without killing him while unlocking the Gaiden. And then the hand axes are so inaccurate that Boris just kept raising his weapon experience. It was so good. Shout out to Spoon Rhythm. If you Google Imgur Spoon Rhythm, you'll find his amazing Let's Plays for this game and Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, where he did a screenshot-based Let's Play using all the worst units of every class. Oh, hi, you look familiar. Blast. And like, it's so good. He just has an amazing sense of humor. So shout outs to Spoon Rhythm.
Roland Man also shared LTC for Fire Emblem 6 that I've been mentioning so far a few times. It's a very, very interesting thing to look at. Really, really interesting strats. It's on the Discord. I don't know if like anyone in the Fire Emblem community can share it on chat. They probably can, but it's like in the FS6 channel. If you want to join, by the way, the Fire Emblem community, we're really welcoming, and there is not really many things happening because there isn't that many runners. There's really just 4 or 5 people just doing random things on their corner and injuries. Just everyone else cheering for them. So like, if you want to join the community, learn Fire Emblem speedrunning, it's a really, really fun game to run.
And there's a variety of different kinds of runs too. Like if RNG manipulation is not your cup of tea, then like there are non-manipulator runs for other games like the Telly series or some of the DS and 3DS games.
Yeah, more specifically, it's primarily the GBA games that are fully manipulated like this, and most of the other games have either different RNG manipulation or none at all.
Hi, we got a warp user.
Yeah, so Nime has 21 magic.
Whee!
It's pretty good, and the warp stuff in this game is kind of broken.
Yeah. So she starts with A rank staves and an A rank dark tomes, which is nice, and she has 21 magic. So warp staff range is magic divided by 2, rounded down, plus 5. So she has 15 warp range, which is crazy.
That plus 5 was removed later on because they realized, oh wait, that's really a lot of range. So let's just take that plus 5.
So to note, you can't warp a unit into a tile you can't see in a fog of war, which is why we had to put Chad up front to give us more vision. Because thieves have extra vision in a fog of war. But yeah, they did kind of like progressively nerf the warp stuff. Oh, I hear
The punish. Come on, you have to see that coming, man.
You'll never see it coming. Last surprise. I don't remember the lyrics for that song. Shout out to Persona 5.
You remember more than I do.
Very sad
Ow.
song.
Ow. Ow. Oof. That's intentional. Shauna, again, needs to be low on HP, so more enemies attack her, and this is really important on turn 2. because we're going to be putting Shauna and Roy in the middle of a bunch of enemies, and they can really easily surround Roy and block him from the throne.
That said, that turn is going to take a while, so...
Yeah, so this turn's going to take a while, so feel free to read a few donations while we watch Shauna dodge everything and slaughter everything.
We have plenty of them. We have a $25 donation from Diamond saying, "Go get him, Kirby. Magoo."
Hey, Diamond.
We did it, Kirby. Goo goo.
Goo goo.
We have a $5 donation from SN Ivan saying, "Let's go, Kirby. You know I'm awake at 3:30 a.m. to watch you. Go
Oh,
and rock
God.
RPG Limit Break with this wonderful game. Pitfall."
Promoting units early is a pitfall. Shout outs to Mecha, who made like a 6 series on pitfalls for Fire Emblem players, which helps clear up like a lot of misconceptions. I definitely recommend checking out his YouTube channel.
There's a $10 donation from Papida saying, "Had to donate during one of my favorite franchises. As someone with depression, I can also relate to the cause. Avoid those pitfalls, kirbymastah."
Freaking hell, Mecha. It's all his fault. Okay, here, have a killer lance.
Boop.
Okay.
So this chapter, when I was routing any percent, this chapter was a nightmare, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of enemy phase and a lot of fighting that you have to go through, and a lot of things that you have to do in order for Shanna and Roy to survive, and also be able to reach that boss. Like that, there was a troubadour sometime blocking the way to the boss, and it was really infuriating. It's so infuriating that I stopped routing this game for about an hour and a year and a half.
I
because
don't
was
blame you.
I was done.
So like when I was routing any percent, I said that it took me about a little over a week with like at least 5 hours a night to route it. I think 3 of those days were just that chapter alone. It was certainly something, because I had to mess with like different positions to position chat to minimize time loss, make sure Shauna didn't killed everything she needed to, make sure she actually survived while also was also low on HP. There's just so many factors you have to take into account that add up.
Yeah, it's just a giant mess.
Meanwhile, there's another Gaiden chapter after this, and one of the requirements is if you see that Pegasus
Green one.
in the jail cell there,
Yeah, you know.
you're supposed to break her out
you know.
and then have her love interest speak to her. But lateral thinking often wins the day.
We really want to reunite her with her husband, which, by the way, we do need Gerard recruited and alive at this point
Yes.
to get to the Gaiden as well, because they're both from Ilya. So, yeah, we're going to reunite them, and what we're going to do to reunite them is break into jail with him and have Gerard join her in jail.
They'll find their way out. I mean,
They'll find their ways out
they're available
somehow.
in the next chapter. So
One thing
you
to
know they'll
note,
make their way
that
out.
magic point is really important. Nime
Yeah.
has only a 15% magic growth, which is horrible, which is why I manipulated a point in magic, because with 22 magic, now she has 16 warp range instead of 15, and that is very important in the next chapter.
Yeah, in the 80% map, since you don't have to warp Gerard in the cell, you actually I think you still do it in current 80% route, but you hammer the warp staff early so that we get that level up.
Angelic
that's
Robe,
how
4,000
I
gold,
used to do
cool.
it.
All right, so Gaiden chapter. We're going to see a lot of walls, and you can kind of see a trend going on here now that we have Nime.
Warp is good.
Walls are just a suggestion.
Walls are
but
just a suggestion.
this time with a game-intended mechanic.
Yes.
So the writing is not as off the wall as you'd expect.
All right, so yeah, this is pretty straightforward, self-explanatory, dance, warp, etc. One thing to note is we only have 1 warp use left, so we're going to use Cecilia, who is an 8-move mounted staff user, to use the Hermern staff. And thankfully, Cecilia here has enough staff rank to use the Hermern staff.
Yeah, Cecilia is good.
She's pretty useful. She's like the example of a character who, her stats are pretty horrible all across the board for a level 1 promoting unit. Like, they're not that bad, but they're kind of, But like everything else about her is so useful. Like having an 8-move staff user who can also attack from 1 to 2 range is just so useful, and you don't have to put any investment into her.
Yeah, she starts with Nair Caliber, which is effective against flying units, namely Wyverns. And
Yes.
Wyverns, we're gonna see a lot of
We're
them.
gonna see a lot of them.
And Wyverns, the weakness of Wyverns is magic as well. So like, have something effective against them on their weakness, they're usually gonna die.
So yeah, we have a bit of time for, I guess, 1 quick donation while we just wait this out.
Alrighty, we have a $100 donation from Linda Cardone with no comment.
Thank you.
We also have another $100 donation from Septuris saying, "Great games, great cause, great runners. What's not to love?"
You tick me off.
That was Esgrunt's line.
We're stealing most of his lines, sadly.
All
He
right.
doesn't have time to react.
So this is where all the money we've been working on comes into play. So we need to go on a massive shopping trip in this next chapter.
You could say we're taking his throne.
So what we're going to do is do a pretty quick base for some money management.
Yeah, so we mentioned earlier that money is super important in this run. It's only for this chapter.
Decent base.
Yeah, very good.
No, not so decent base there. You don't want to press start on the unit select screen because, like, if you notice, it takes like 2 seconds for the actual map to start. Oh, by the way, let's make babies. Support!
Hey, they're just being friends, okay?
Oh yeah, this isn't Fates.
Also, shoutouts to the music.
His
Yeah.
theme is awesome.
It's like it's the second best theme in the game, besides Aiden's theme, which we barely are going to hear.
So
So
yeah,
yeah.
this is a really, really big map.
And a really big warp range.
Yeah, so let me show off the map for a second. There are a lot of trigger points where if you enter certain boxes, you'll trigger a bunch of wyverns in spawning, and then it'll just waste a bunch of time. Like, I think there's a trigger point around here. You want to avoid them, and we also need to get all the way into this throne room and beat this guy. He's a
normal
cheater.
mode.
He's a cheater. He has 62 HP. HP cap is 60. Filthy cheater.
This is normal mode, guys.
Yeah,
So
this is
guy
normal
stronger.
mode.
It's even stronger in hard mode.
I mean, he cheats, so it's whatever. So what we're going to do instead is cheat with RNG manipulation. Let him have a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah, so the reason why we got that support, that support with Shanna and Roy gives us +5 crit rate. Most importantly, there's also extra sub, but we don't really care about them. So that's going to allow Shanna to crit with the Armor Slayer. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, she has 0 crit on him with a non-crit boosting weapon. And even with the Killer Lance, she can't kill him with a double crit because he's so bulky.
Yeah, and
So-
the Armor Slayer doesn't want to hit KO, so
Like, just think about that. An Armor Slayer with a capped Shana doesn't two-shot him. He's so bulky.
it's so strong.
He is so strong.
Typically, you see that guy and you go like, okay, Rudgar, use that Durandal. But we don't have Rudgar.
There's one other rather important thing to do in this chapter, though.
Will
Yeah,
be coming up soon.
we didn't shop yet.
Yeah, so we have Milady stocked up with a members card that we sold from Huge. And the members card is needed to enter secret shops. And certain chapters have like a hidden secret shop with no indicator on them of like that there is a secret shop. You just have to find it. Milady is also equipped with the silver card which she got from the deserts, along with a bunch of stat boosters we're gonna sell. The silver card allows us to buy items at half price, and everything in the secret shop is 8,000 gold normally. With the silver card, it's 4,000 each, and we have 36,000 gold, meaning we can buy 9 items from it.
So what you're saying is there's a lot of shopping in the cards.
Yes. Does the S and S grunt stand for silver grunts? Oh, all these wyverns. All right.
Alright,
Have a
so-
warp. Do 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 do. All right, let's go to the mall.
This is the money shot.
Alright. It's time to, I guess, buy boots. There you go, Kirby.
Thanks.
Get my shoes.
Thanks.
There you go.
Very
You don't need
hygienic.
to- I'll just set them right down
Oh,
there.
you can put them on my lap. I'm joking. I'm not wearing these pants tomorrow.
So, yeah. All these boots, we can stack them. So, like, you can have Shanna with, I don't know, four boots? 2 for her and 2 for the Pegasus Knights. So, Pegasus.
So yeah, notice the 5 crit, that is all from support.
Yes, if she did not have the support, she would have 0 crit. Next
Friendship
level.
is magic, guys.
Fun fact, in the GBA Fire Emblems, if you get a 0 stat level up, the game re-rolls the entire level. And it does that up to 3 times, which is why blank level ups are relatively uncommon in the GBA Fire Emblems. Meaning if you actually get a blank level up, you actually got 3 blank level ups in a row, and you got absurdly unlucky. Or just happen to have a bunch of stats capped, like
Yeah.
Shana. Right, this is the last Gaiden. We had access to this because we had Zeus and Milady recruited, and also cleared the last chapter in, what's it called, 30 turns?
It's much, much more than it actually took.
All right, so this is another Fog of War. We have a replacement thief.
Yeah, we got him on the Luna chapter. And yeah, the thing with this game is that you can't use stat boosters or promotion items in the prep menu, so we actually have to use them on the map while we're trying to do things.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes for you basically have to find moments where units are not going to do anything to use these boost items. The boots are going to give you +2 movement every time you use them to a max at 15. And yeah, we're gonna use them on our 3 main characters, Roy, Shanna, and Lalum, to go up to 14, I think.
Yes. We don't want Roy to level up anymore. He has the stats he needs. So he's at level 18. Extra level ups just cost time. We wanted to kill this boss on enemy phase so that Shanna has a free turn on turn 2 to use boots. Here's another Don threat with the units at the bottom. The screen is not going to scroll down at all because we've limited our vision on the bottom part of the screen so that we don't see any enemies that move. And shout out to Don for that strat. It saves a bit of time. All right. How about a co-op speedrun?
Yeah, let's go.
Here. Let's go.
So they are mashing by just using any input directionally to advance text. So kind of ruining that poor GameCube controller's stick like
That's
that.
okay, we're just quick spinning.
Why are you hitting the C-stick? You can see the input display from the Game Boy interface. Oh, look at that. You see all the inputs? I'm putting in some inputs too. Look at that. Select button, start button.
That's because I'm used to GBA Game Boy player.
Ah, yeah.
And
that's
Game
fair.
Boy player stick is actually just like the other stick.
So yeah, you know, Roy, he does have a promotion. It exists. We're about to finally promote.
And he's going to go from good, because so far he's maxed out.
All right, we're good.
Yeah, he's got good stats.
The Binding Bold.
The Binding Blade. So, Roy has the Binding Blade equipped, which gives +5 defense, +5 resistance. And upon promotion, he automatically equips it to Randall, which gives +5 strength instead.
So +7 strength,
+7 strength, -3 defense.
Oh no!
Oh no! So this promotion here only reflects the stat change, not the actual, including the fact that he changed his weapon.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to gain 2 strength, 2 defense, but instead he gained 7 strength and lost 3 defense.
And it completely ignores the resistance.
It's irresistible.
Irresistible.
What you're saying is he went from being the Smash Melee Roy to being the Smash Ultimate Roy.
Pretty much.
That's it.
Oh, it's so sad, but so true. I think that's right. I don't. I just let Muscle Army take over. I think that's correct. Roy's our boy! All right, so this is probably the coolest chapter in the run. So what we need to do is, it's another Siege chapter, but Zephiel, the main antagonist, is in this throne room. And to open it, we need to get on this tile here, and also have Roy in front of the door here. And we're gonna do that quickly. So we're running out of war pieces, so let's fix it up with the Hammer and Staff again.
Yeah, so in order to do that, we are going to use Melvinus, who we barely even used throughout this run. So basically, we're going to give a Cavalier the Warp Staff, and we're going.
Let's try that.
I think that's
I
right.
think so, but I'll be safe.
We're going to give a Cavalier the Warp Staff and have the full inventory when he's going to open the chest for a sword reverb that we're not really going to care about. He's going to go like, oh hey, my inventory is empty. What do you want to send to the convoy? Who is on the other side of the map? You're going to send the warp. And that's going to allow you to have the warp on the left side whenever you want to warp Shanna all the way over there.
Also, take a dose of your own medicine and get silence.
Silence. You're not allowed on my couch.
That guy has a Berserk Staff and he's always going to use it on every turn. Not only is that annoying, he also has 100% hit rate on some people in here because they don't have much resistance.
And it's a sap animation that we're gonna see at least twice. So it's faster just to silence him immediately. And this is a silence that we got back all the way back in the desert chapter. And this is the one use for it. All right, here, have more boots. She's gonna be really comfortable dancing in those extra pairs of boots. All right, so we're gonna warp Durot carrying Roy near the throne room. We're gonna have Cecilia rescue Nime. And Alan's gonna go ahead and take Nime, and he's gonna try to take on this mercenary here.
Think you can take me?
Think you can take me? Don't forget me! Ooh. Oh, Bible thump. Raise your apps, Bible thump. Oh, hey. Nice
She
work.
can move again. Yeah, that's a glitch in only in Fire Emblem 6. If the unit carrying another unit die, then the unit that was carried can actually move again. It's used extensively in LTC. It's really, really rough. Get ready for the cries.
The bloodshed is real.
Yeah, it really is. I didn't count.
Nice animations.
I didn't count how.
Hey, this is a cool animation.
It's a cool one at least.
I didn't
So
count.
the streak is still alive.
I forgot to turn off animations again. Oops.
And yeah, Nate that double crit in order to just take down that guy. 1 HP short. And yeah, those guys are pretty scary because they have really good stats and have brave weapons. So yeah, you kind of want, you kind of need Shanna and Percival, the two best combat units in here to deal with them. And that just leaves Roy for the throne room, so he's going to be alone for once. He doesn't have his best friend.
It's okay, he can take it.
So
He's our boy.
Roy has the Binding Blade equip, which I mentioned gives a +5 defense, +5 resistance boost. It's absurdly powerful, has 10 crit, very accurate, and 1 to 2 range. It's like one of the best weapons in Fire Emblem history.
Absolutely.
He's just going to slaughter everything here. We actually kind of want to avoid combat typically because it wastes time, but Roy actually needs to hit 24 skill by this point. 23 skill is the most amount of skill he can have at level 1. So I have to waste some time giving him some kills on this turn to hit 24 skill. The reason behind that is because with 23 skill, he's going to have a 6% crit on Zephiel. We need to land a double 6% crit on him, but the closest random number there is over 800 random numbers away. If he has if with 7% crit to land a double 7% crit on Zephiel, it's only about 100 random numbers away.
That's still a lot.
It's still a lot, but it's not as much as 800. So because like the RNG rolls one number for determining crit rate, and if the roll number is lower than the crit rate, then you get a crit. And the two numbers that happen to be rolled with what I'm going to do soon is 6 and 5, meaning I have to have at least 7 crit.
I just want to say that I'm always reading that Lance's name too quickly because I hardly see it as Mallet.
You really have to hammer it home sometimes.
All right, so open the door, use some boots on Roy.
So there's a lot of very scary units here, so let's see if Zeroth can take him.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Should have stayed in jail, man.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's correct.
Right,
Have a double 7% crit. Woo!
And that's a two hit KO on Zephiel, who by the way is pretty strong.
He's really bulky. Like, you do not have the stats to take him out in one round in any percent, so you have to use Shauna to weaken him a little bit. Oh, so we have a dancer here with a lot of move.
Yeah, Roy also has a lot of move as well. You could see
12
that. 12
move, 11 move. It's great. It's beautiful.
I think Shanaz should have like 12.
She
as
has
well.
14, I think.
I'm currently working on a playthrough where I did a bunch of arena grinding, not so much for the units, but for the money, just so I can buy an absurd number of boots and just have fun with it.
Yeah, having 1,000 boots is always great. Even casual, like suddenly you have units that just go a billion years later in the map. It's just so good. It's the only game where you can buy boots, and because like they realize, oh wait, that's broken.
Oh no, rip hammer, and wish we had another hammer and staff for that. Here, have a warp. This is a really big map and really scary map.
2 hammers, infinite everything. That would be pretty good.
Because like we need to get all the way here, beat her, who has really beefy stats all around. And the Guiding Ring, for whatever reason, if you have an unpromoted unit at this point in the game.
Yeah, let's promote Sophia. Let's go. She's going to be useful.
It would be really nice to recruit the Karel, who can be recruited into this chapter, because he would be the only other unit after Shauna and Roy with an can use an S rank weapon. But we need to use Fur to recruit him, and we didn't bother recruiting Fur, so.
And he doesn't have boots either, so like it's going to be difficult to even use him on the next chapter.
So Roy and Shauna are just kind of slaughtering everything because they're using their respective divine weapons, and divine weapons have triple effectiveness on wyverns and Manikeets. Roy has a Durandal equip, which has 17 might, meaning against wyverns it actually has 51 might, plus a +5 strength boost to Roy's strength. Shauna has Malta, I think does have like 16 might, so it's around 48 might.
Yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
If it's 16, it would be 48. So, well, yeah. I mean, you can see the results.
Yeah, and this enemy phase is kind of a complete pain to manipulate because we need Roy and Shauna to not die and to kill everything that attacks them. And it's really easy for them to die because they all get two-shotted by absolutely everything. Like, the enemies here hit hard.
And there's also status staffs here, and they are annoying.
Yeah, see those druids? Yeah, we really want Shauna to get resistance because each point of resistance reduces a status staff's hit rate by 6 on the targets.
Also,
And-
somehow the snipers don't attack.
Yeah,
Because why not?
I don't know. So yeah, we need to also have Shauna dodge 3 druid status saves, and they have roughly 40 to 50 hits. So dodging 3 of them in a row on top of making sure Roy and Shauna don't die and actually hit everything is really hard.
Yeah, something we didn't mention, the hit rate for staffs is actually just one random number and not two. So when you see 40%, it's actually 40%.
It is
so
actually
that's
40%.
very scary. It's like you see a crit at 40%, you go like, oh my god, this is gonna hit.
How are you going to be able to move around to get to the throne?
Oh, I don't know. I mean having
that's a long way.
having 14 move helps. All right, last chapter in the run.
Woo!
Here we go.
So this chapter is full, filled with Manakeets, and we have all the divine weapons we need for it. Oh my god, all those knights. I wonder how they're going to be used.
Thinking emoji.
Oh my god, are you really doing that? Oh my god! You kept that a secret, and I know why, and I love it for
I've
it.
kept this secret from almost everyone the entire time.
Yeah,
If you know this game, you know what's coming.
Suffice it to say, there are some dark times ahead.
So, this is a chapter where we have to see... You thought we didn't have enough throne seizing in the game? Well, welcome to this chapter. We have to see 7 thrones in a row. So every throne room has its own... has a strong Manakeet on the throne on top of... which doesn't move. And also 2 other Manakeets that do move. So we're going to be using Roy and Shauna to take them out. And we want to avoid counterattacks as much as possible because these Manakeets are really accurate. And we want to avoid getting hit since we don't want to bother healing Roy or Shauna anywhere since healing animations cost a lot of time. Meaning, what this means is we want to one-shot as many Manakeets as possible. Unfortunately, in Shauna's case, she has to rely on crits and the Roy support bonus because the Maltet is kind of an underwhelming weapon as a S-rank weapon. Like, compare 16 might with 18 might from the Binding Blade. On top of having a low strength cap, it really hurts her a lot. So she barely falls short of one-shotting a lot of Manakeets. Which is why Roy's support really comes in handy, because it gives them both a +1 attack boost and a +5 crit boost.
Why, Kirby, why?
So everything I'm doing that's not related to Shauna, Laylam, or Roy is actually improv. For the most part. It actually is improv. Like I do something different each time. It's like I'm just like counting tiles and trying to get these armor knights as far as possible because of their bad move. So these enemy phases are annoying to manipulate because with the exception of the first throne room, every throne room has a Manakeet at the entrance, meaning we have to face the chance of them hitting us, and meaning we have to manipulate a dodge if you want to maintain full HP. And that's really annoying because they're really accurate.
Yeah,
So-
typically Manakeets kill you in 2 hits.
Yeah, they kill Roy only in 3 hits if he has a Binding Blade equipped. So basically that means I have 2 hits on Roy and 1 hit on Shauna to spare, quote, quote. So I look for the spots where it is the most painful to manipulate a dodge, and then just have Roy or Shauna just take the hit instead. And RNG manipulating this chapter is really annoying because Roy, Shauna, and Laylam all have absurd amounts of move. So it's really hard to kind of zone in on like one number you want to. So this is probably okay. So the reason I'm using a lance is because this guy is way too fat. Like 16 Constitution. The only units I have on my team who can actually recruit them.
fat.
Oh, fat! No! So this is why we don't call it true ending.
Yeah, for true ending, you need Fa to stay alive. Because like the final cutscene is going to be different.
As I was
big
saying,
deal.
the only units that can rescue Barth is Lance and Trek in that sense.
If Kirby wasn't being such a memer, he could save her without too much extra effort.
That's... I'm not gonna do this. Take drop. Because Barth is so fat. Alright, so this is one of those spots where RNG manipulating a dodge is a pain in the butt, so I just had Roy take a hit instead. At this point, the level ups don't matter at all, really, because like they already have the stats they need to take on this chapter. In the case of Roy, I do want as much strength as possible to increase his chances of one-shotting units, but he's already capped strength at 25, so at this point, I don't care about his level ups.
And anyway, you're using the divine weapons. You're probably just going to one-round Manakits if you're not one-shotting them.
Yeah. So basically, since I want to avoid as many RNG burns as possible, I'm basically like, I use the LUA script to kind of find where is there a convenient crit so that I can time a crit with Shauna without burning any RN. So this is one such example right here. Okay. Let's see how this works. You go up this way. You rescue him. Okay, that works. And you rescue this fatso.
Kirby, why?
Okay.
This is so much effort for something so silly.
This isn't it, by the way. I have more in store, so look forward to that.
I'm pretty sure I know where you're going to use it, and I hate you for it.
Yeah, me too.
Wait, I don't think I burned an RN there, but it should be fine. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. You drop her here. Go there. You go up. You keep going. Oh, that was Boris, not Wendy. They all have 4 moves, so to me, all I care about is who Barth is, because no one can rescue him besides Lance.
If you're wondering about when she actually is used to save turn in the LTC.
Yeah, that got mentioned.
Yeah, I wasn't sure anymore, and I was starting to say it, and I was like, wait, did I say it?
One of us did.
Probably me. But like, yeah, this is just capturing thrones over and over, so if you have anything to say...
You can squeeze in a donation here, I think. Not a bad time to do so.
Alrighty, we have a $5 donation from asmith1313 saying, "Love me some Fire Emblem. Always amazes me how quick these games can be beat when you know what's about to happen." We have an anonymous $5 donation saying, "Check my time on my second playthrough this game. 49 hours and 30 minutes. I think you're going to beat my time." But you won't have Sophia at max stats, though.
You're a weird guy. It's okay, I respect that choice.
The real question is, did you max her con?
Well, technically you can. If you already max her stat, you're ready to max her con.
Okay. And feel free to read a few more.
We have a $10 donation from Jack of Hearts saying, "Shauna, don't you mean Thany?" For those that don't know, in the original Japanese, there are actually pictures of her with the name Thany, even though that's not even remotely close to what her katakana is.
Okay.
We have a $5 donation from Ephraim225 saying, "You, guess what? Money is really important. If you don't have it, your weapons will rust, and you can't fight without your weapon." A Lord and his Falco Knight. This Awakening run is excellent.
I approve.
We have a $25 donation from Ryan40 with no comment. And we have a $5 donation from Shtick saying, "A sacae run of this game would be really interesting to plan out, but I suppose it's so annoying a route won't be deciphered anytime soon."
Nah, yeah. That's not going to be decided anytime soon. So, yeah, here, have a warp. Because these units are so far behind that we need to warp them ahead.
And the problem is that if you don't warp anyone, they're gonna die around here because, like, mannequins come from thrones and they just strike you. They're just going to be in between two fires.
So my goal with this meme is to just make sure that all these other units don't die. And they don't really affect the RNG as long as they don't fall in range of any of the mannequins. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Okay. So your move is up there, so I think I can take advantage of that by moving you here and warp Lance.
Go, Lance, go!
Okay. And Cecilia, you can just drop there, and then you go here. Yeah, that works out perfectly. Sweet. So like anything I do with the other scrubs doesn't matter as long as I don't burn any arms with them nor leave them in range of any mannequins. So it's all actually kind of improv. HP speed, that's correct. Okay, go there. So here's one spot where Roy's position really matters because this is the left Manakee is one of those very few Manakees that Shauna can actually one-shot, but that's only because she gets +1 strength from Roy support. And then since trying to get a crit or a dodge on this Manakee is so obnoxious, I decided to have Shauna just tank a hit here. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. Look at how much damage they do. Okay, let's see. Let's manage these guys. You go up. You warp. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
This gotta be the biggest meme you've ever done in the Fire Emblem.
It is.
Speedrun.
It absolutely
I hope I don't
is.
go over estimates. It might have been a bad call to ask someone to lower the estimate from 2 hours, but hey, it happens. We should be good.
I mean, you did mess around a lot. And
I slowed down a lot.
To show stuff around. Because, like, really, the thing with Fire Emblem speedrun is that once you've seen the run once, it's always going to be the same. Because, like, you know, there is no RNG in it.
It should be good, yeah.
So, like, gotta show things a bit.
And I also gotta do stupid memes like this. Yep, without the Sword of Shields, Roy will be dead.
Yeah, +5 defense is huge.
Okay, we're about to end this chapter. I've waited a millennium. My strength has recovered and is greater than ever. I can feel it.
Yeah,
Oh,
about
what-
that.
Here, about that. I don't think you can breathe fire at me from 2 tiles away. All right, so before we go to the final chapter, these are Roy's stats if you're curious. Yeah, pretty good. And these are Shauna's stats. They're pretty good too.
Super beefy.
All right, so we have one last fight left, and it is the true final boss, Idun. And she, yeah. So here's the thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you look at these combat parameters, Roy just kind of slaughters her completely, even without like any training. So normally we would just kill her immediately, but what we're gonna do instead is have a bit of fun. 7 hits. Oh my. 1% chance to hit. Here, have an eclipse.
Kirby, no!
I knew it. I knew it.
77 damage.
no!
I'm sure you must have been over the moon when you found out this would work.
Barth.
This is
rescue
7
Force.
displayed it, so that's like.
That should be good.
Think about it.
I was
That's gonna
practicing,
be
I was
under
practicing this like
1%.
all day today because I did not want to mess this up because there's so many things to try to remember. All right, so by the way, if you didn't know, the 3 Armor Knights I have something called a triangle attack, where if 2 of the Armor Knights are adjacent around a unit and the 3rd Armor Knight initiates an attack, then they initiate a triangle attack, which is a guaranteed hit, guaranteed crit.
Rip
Please tell
estimate,
me
by
you
the
killed
way.
with Wendy.
And so
Yes.
we're gonna use the last warp staff, the last warp staff use, to use the triangle attack with Wendy. And even better, we're gonna use the freaking javelin on it. Here, let's go.
Let's go!
Oh, I forgot to burn orange with her. I wanted to get a crit. Tink.
Kirby.
She tried, okay?
She tried.
I
Okay,
can't believe you've done this.
I'm not sure how this is gonna work because I forgot to burn a few irons. I think I'm just gonna try this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait a second. Eclipse is one number. 1, 2, 4. How many did it count? 6?
I don't know.
I think that was 7.
Just
Okay, let's
reset
try this again. Okay.
as well.
Okay. So I think what I was supposed to do with Wendy was.
Were
it's gonna
you
be
trying to
2,
get the
3,
kill with
4,
Wendy?
5, 6.
It's not gonna work out because the RNG is going to be different because you attacked her.
Yeah, but I normally use I do six sets of burns with a smaller burn. That's probably going to be roughly 10, maybe a little bit more. So
YOLO.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Will that work? 1, 2, 3. Yes, that works. That works. That works. That works. That works. That's the correct path.
Oh,
So,
God.
if this works, you're about to see Eclipse kill someone for the first time.
Oh no.
That should be the correct path. I think I counted correctly, so...
This is the best run ever.
Have you ever seen Eclipse hit someone? Well, that's the first time. I had to improv that. I was like guessing how many irons that burned, so I just like figured that out on the fly, and I'm glad it worked. Time.
I don't know if I should clap for that.
Oh no!
So if you don't kill with the Binding Blade, actually, she survives. So that's a different ending.
Yeah, like you
as
don't get
well.
the true ending if you don't get the landing blow with Roar. But we are a little over time thanks to me wasting some time with memes and not bothering to time that, being a little irresponsible, but it's okay. I
was
think we're
fun
good
at
for
least.
now, so that's it. I want to give a quick shout out to Don Don Legrand here. I think who else worked on the routing for this? It was you and Don Don for the most. TR143 also helped with a lot too.
Yeah.
And Beacon 12. There were like a lot of old posts and strats they shared on the SDA and just a lot of things.
Two
And the re-
Sage as well.
Yes, the reason
Sage
why
first
this
pass.
run was a thing is because of them, honestly. And like, while I did the actual routing for this, a lot of the strats were developed from them in the first place. So this run wouldn't have been possible without them. So shoutouts to all of them. Shoutouts to the Fire Emblem community. And I don't have much else to say. So thank you very much for having me to demonstrate this run. And I hope you enjoyed watching Eclipse kill someone.
Thank you very much, Kirbymaster, for that awesome run. We're going to get set up for FFT, but in the meantime, we're going to play a quick Twitch ad.
Hey everybody, I'm Rivers McCowan, taking over the host ship now. Got a couple donations to read. We got $100 from Tracy Bluth RIP. It says, I know nutsing about most of these games, but I love to see folks speedrunning for a cause. And we've got $10 from MK Bunny. It says, I wanted to donate during my brother MS Kane's run, but since no one has named the other characters, I will. Thank you to this wonderful group for the fun week they give us each year. And good luck, Oni-chan. Love you. All right, we have $60 from LCC that says, I love FFT. We've got $60 from Emmy Pop that says, looking forward to some FFT. We are setting up for Final Fantasy characters right now. If you want to maybe snipe some of the hired female units, that donation war is still open. And we have $5 from MK Bunny with no comment, but thank you very much for your $5. Every $5 matters. RPG Limit Break 2019 is coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. We are raising money for NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. which was formed in 1979 as a grassroots advocacy organization by a group of parents whose children suffered with serious mental illnesses, and NAMI have maintained that focus to this day. We've got 1337 from Pidge224 that says, Grats Claude, Dataface. Also, shoutouts to Rivers. Thanks, Pidge. We have $25 from J Money Motos that says, good luck with Final Fantasy Tactics, one of my all-time favorites on the PS1 and prime for breaking, even without math. Donation goes to Rivers' choice. All right, without any further ado, we're